Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Gopalji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna
Prabhu.
Prabhu.
Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone. We will
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. So we will start with our introductory prayers to the spiritual master, like we do every time, and I'll recite those, and then we will start with chapter 9 today of the Bhagavad Gita. Om Jnanam Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadahmayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitangsha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktarinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, last time we talked about chapter 8, how to remember Krishna at the time of death. And I hope all of you enjoyed reading that chapter and absorbing all of Krishna's instructions in that chapter and preparing our mind to always think of Krishna. So now, after giving this very essential knowledge and answering Arjuna's questions, now Krishna talks about chapter 9. And chapter 9 is chapter 9, what's peculiar about chapter 9 of the Bhagavad Gita? What's the very significance of chapter 9? There's many significances, but just the fact that in the Gita, what significance does the number 9 hold, chapter 9 as the number 9 hold?
Lord reveals the secret information.
The Lord reveals the secret information. So the title of the chapter is the most confidential knowledge, right? Raja Vidya. This is the highest, the king of all knowledge. Raja Guhyam, most confidential also. But in terms of the numbers, what is the significance of 9?
It's the middle.
It's the middle. Very nice. Yes, it's right in the middle. So the Gita has 18 chapters, and this is in the middle. So we talk about how the first 6 chapters and the last 6 chapters are supporting the middle 6 chapters, which talk about bhakti. Of course, there's bhaktis throughout the Gita, but the middle 6 chapters are the most confidential knowledge, the most, special. And among the middle, chapter 9 is right in the middle. So therefore, chapter 9 is actually the most confidential knowledge. And that's why the title of the chapter. Now, Krishna in this chapter gives us, the most confidential knowledge. Of course, in chapter 10, he says that the knowledge that I'll give you now is even better than the previous chapter. So again, in the spiritual platform, everything is absolute. But this chapter does hold this significance. So it is a king of knowledge, just as pearls are hidden within a shell, whereas a king is surrounded by an entourage. The essence of the Bhagavad Gita is nestled in the middle of the conversation, the 9th chapter. Here, Krishna outlines the king of all knowledge and the most secret of all secrets. He explains the very essence of the Bhagavad Gita, the essence of spirituality, and the very essence of our entire being. So nice, huh? So the essence of the secret of all secrets, which is, we'll see, it comes in one of the verses. And it's the essence of the Gita, the essence of everything. Essence of spirituality and the essence of our being. This is who we are. This is what we're meant to do. So this acronym KING, we can use it to understand the sections of this chapter. Texts 1 through 3 are the king of all knowledge, right? So they talk about, texts 1 through 3 talk about knowledge. Krishna explains that the wisdom of this chapter is most confidential, since it illuminates the true position and function of the soul in relation to God. Krishna explains that this knowledge is state-specific. One must be non-envious and faithful to understand it. Faith is not opposed to knowledge, but is actually a prerequisite for receiving it. Very wonderful point here. So Krishna gives the famous verse in this Gita to Arjuna that the reason I'm imparting this knowledge unto you is because you are my friend and you're not envious of me. And so this knowledge is state-specific. It means that one has to be in a particular state of mind to understand this knowledge. Then someone says, well, but if I have faith, then what's the point of knowledge? Then I already have faith. No, in order to actually gain spiritual knowledge, one needs faith. It's not opposed to knowledge. It's a prerequisite of knowledge, especially for confidential knowledge. And this is not something extraordinary. This is actually something very logical. Just like if you want to know something about someone, if you want to enter into someone's personal existence, their personal life, the only way you will get that knowledge in an ethical way is the only person who will have that knowledge is the person who has a relationship. By developing a relationship with that person, we can get that knowledge. To those who are outsiders, those who are, outside that circle, they will not get that knowledge. The second one is inconceivable relationships, from texts 4 to 10. In this section, Krishna begins to impart knowledge of his inconceivable relationships with the universe and all living entities. This knowledge gives an indication of the unfathomable character, greatness, and capacity of God, and thus exposes our inability to comprehend such matters through mundane logic and reason. So Krishna talks about his own greatness. He talks about his relationship with the universe and all living entities. And so the theme of this section is, what is Krishna's relationship with the universe and with the living entities, the souls. What's the relationship between the Lord, the living entities, the universe, the Lord, living, these three things? How do they connect? The third section, non-worship. So there's worship and then there's non-worship, meaning worshiping Krishna, but in the wrong way or not worshiping him. Because Krishna appears in a human-like form, some deem him as an ordinary human being. Others believe that God manifests innumerable forms, represented by the various demigods. Others cannot perceive of anything beyond this universe. Krishna highlights that he awards different results to a person's worship based on their motivation and understanding of that worship. And the final section is the glories of bhakti. To approach God in the most intimate and personal way, one requires the greatest qualification, complete purity of consciousness, without any tinge of selfish motivation. Krishna explains that such purity is characterized by complete immersion of mind, body, and words in selfless devotional service. This is Krishna consciousness, and this is the perfectional climax of the Bhagavad Gita. So finally, he ends like he does just with every chapter in describing the glories of bhakti, and the glories of immersing oneself in that process and reaching the highest stage of life. So this chapter is nectar throughout. It's very, very wonderful. So we'll try to cover as many verses as we can. And it's also, a short chapter, 34 verses. So text 2, I began by saying that how this is chapter 9, right? How the king is surrounded by his attendants. A pearl is surrounded by the covers, by the shell. In the same way, this is the highest knowledge is coming right in the middle. And Krishna says this, Raja Vidyam Raja Guhyam Pavitram Midam Uttamam Pratyaksha Dharmyam Susukham Kartum Avyayam. This knowledge is a secret of all secrets. This knowledge is the king of education, the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting, and it is joyfully performed. So this actually gives us all the qualities of transcendental knowledge. And transcendental knowledge, not any knowledge, but transcendental knowledge is synonymous with bhakti. So it also gives us the qualities of bhakti. How is bhakti synonymous with transcendental knowledge? Well, for example, reading Srimad Bhagavatam or reading Bhagavad Gita is one of the limbs of bhakti. Hearing Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita is one of the limbs of bhakti. And that's knowledge. Right? Knowledge is an integral part of bhakti, but not any knowledge. This knowledge, this transcendental knowledge. So in the same way, when we practice devotional service, when we perform any devotional activity, Krishna gives knowledge from within our heart. So that knowledge is also realized through the process of devotional service, just like Lord Chaitanya says, Cheto Darpanamarjanam Bhava Mahatava Nirvapanam Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam Vidya Vadhu Jivanam. That this spiritual knowledge is Vidya Vadhu Jivanam. It gives birth to spiritual knowledge. This chanting of the holy name is Vidya Vadhu Jivanam. It gives transcendental knowledge. So that is the nature of bhakti. So one of the qualities of devotional service, a very important one, when we're on the platform of pure devotional service, we will always be joyful, and the activities of devotional service will be joyfully performed. So a characteristic of pure bhakti is that it must have joy or pleasure within it. It must be joyfully performed. Otherwise, it's not actually pure bhakti. If it's painful, we're struggling, we don't like it, then it is bhakti, but it's not pure bhakti, because we haven't come to the platform by which we have a natural taste to love Krishna. Now the question is, if it's not joyfully performed, should we stop doing it? You know, half the time when I wake up in the morning, I'm not waking up joyfully. You know, the other half of the time I am, but sometimes it's just like, I don't want to wake up, but I still wake up. Or I don't want to chant, but I still chant. Or I don't want to serve, but I still serve. So should we all experience this, right? This thought process, this feeling, this reflection. So if it's not joyfully performed, should we give it up? No, because that is we are on the path of bhakti. That is the nature of bhakti, that in the beginning, it is not so pleasurable because our mind and senses are not fully purified. But once we keep doing it, then it will become spontaneously pleasurable and joyful. And when we practice bhakti like that, then we know it's working, right? We should still not think that we're on the level of pure bhakti, but that it's a sign or a symptom of pure devotion. Like the great souls in our movement, we see that they are doing all the activities of bhakti, but they're running and doing it. Like they are looking forward to doing it. In the beginning, we're performing bhakti on the basis of our mind and intelligence. And that type of bhakti is very good. That's how bhakti begins. Our intelligence tells us that this is the right thing to do. That's why we do it. But when we come to the platform that the intelligence is telling us, but we also want to do it. We don't like to sleep. We genuinely don't like to sleep. We feel it's a waste of time. We don't like to watch movies. We don't like to waste our time in gossip. Then that is a symptom of pure devotion. The very beginning of Bhagavad Gita, the first chapter, is more or less an introduction to the rest of the book. And in the second and third chapters, the spiritual knowledge described is called confidential. Topics discussed in the seventh and eighth chapters are specifically related to devotional service. And because they bring enlightenment in Krishna consciousness, they are called more confidential. But the matters which are described in the ninth chapter deal with unalloyed pure devotion. Therefore, this is called the most confidential. One who is situated in the most confidential knowledge of Krishna is naturally transcendental. He therefore has no material pangs, although he is in the material world. So Prabhupada is telling us, if we apply this most confidential knowledge, we will always be in that transcendental state, though we'll be in the material world. And you'll see in the life and character of devotees who are advanced, their nature is quite light. They're not so affected by their surroundings, by disturbances. They are, they immediately, they're very resilient. They immediately become joyful. So now going back to text 1, this is the qualification to get this spiritual knowledge. Shri Bhagavan Vacha idam tu te guhyatamam pravakshami anasuyave jnanam vijnanam sahitam yajñatva mokshase shubhat. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "My dear Arjuna, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most confidential knowledge and realization, knowing which you shall be relieved of the miseries of material existence." A very deep verse, very special verse. Krishna is saying, because you're never envious of me, I shall impart this knowledge unto you. And then this knowledge will free you from all miseries. So our miseries begin, and we come to this material world due to our envy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Our envy of Krishna is the root cause of our coming in this world. And when we are envious of Krishna, then we become envious of every living entity. Because every living entity is part and parcel of Krishna. And when we're not envious of Krishna, then we're a friend to all living beings. So envy is what brings us to this material world, and freedom from envy is the beginning of our spiritual life. When we are not envious of Krishna, then we are going to go back to him, start to, that's a qualification. Very simple. One may think that, well, how am I envious of God? Well, when we don't want to worship him, right? The atheist is envious of the Lord because they say, I am God. I am God. And we want to take God's position. That's called atheism. That's envy. Krishna's God, when we're saying, no, I am God. So that is envy. In the same way, when we are thinking that I am the control, so those who are theists, we don't believe we're God, right? But if I think that I'm the controller, the owner and maintainer of my family, then that's enviousness of Krishna. Why? Because Krishna is the controller, owner, and maintainer of my family. If I think that I am the owner of this car or this house, then that's envious of Krishna. Or this is my nation, this is my land. Because everything belongs to Krishna. This is why in chapter 6, right, the peace formula is given, Bhoktaram Yagyatapasam Sarvalokam Heshwaram. And Krishna says, this is the peace formula. You get peace from all anxieties, from material problems, when you understand that I am the enjoyer of all living entities. I am the friend of all living entities. I am the benefactor of all living entities. Because as long as we are trying to take Krishna's role, we will always be agitated. And that is envy of Krishna. So only the devotee of the Lord who wants to surrender to Krishna is not envious of him, or is giving up his envy for Krishna. We may not be free completely 100% from envying Krishna, but at least we are recognizing that Krishna is God. I'm not God. And therefore choosing to praise him, glorify him in the morning, chant his glories. So these things are all particularly very much the signs of devotion, that the devotee wants to glorify the Lord. The non-devotee does not want to glorify him. So Arjun, he is a soul surrendered unto Krishna. He says, therefore you're not envious of me, therefore I can give you all of this spiritual knowledge. This is the requirement, the hallmark. It's said that all the qualities that a person has can be engaged in the Lord's service. Just like it's described that anger was engaged in the Lord's service by Hanumanji. Right? Lord Hanuman was very angry at Ravana, therefore he burned down the Lanka. And that was service. One can utilize anger and direct it towards those who are demoniac, who are against Krishna. Lust can be applied to Krishna. We can lust after Krishna. There's no problem. We cannot lust after the gopis. We cannot lust after the other devotees of the Lord, but we can lust after Krishna. That is actually the proper focus of lust. Greed can also be utilized in the Lord's service. We can be greedy for Krishna's service, for spiritual advancement. However, it said that envy is a quality that cannot be engaged in the Lord's service. That simply must be given up. Because anyone, if we're envious of, that's a fault. If we're envious of God, it's a problem. If we're envious of the devotees, it's even more of a problem. If we're envious of another living entity, it's a problem. Envy cannot be, it simply must be given up. And our first thought in the spiritual world, before we come to the material world, is that how nice it would be if I am in the center, Right now, Krishna is in the center, but actually, guess what? I want to be in the center. Why should Krishna be in the center? And the moment we have that thought, we come down. The moment we think that, why is Krishna enjoying with all of the residents of Vrindavan? Why is he, the object of love for everyone? I should be. Then we come to this material world. And then text 3, Krishna kind of solidifies this. He grounds us and now talks about that how faith and knowledge are actually synonymous. Ashraddhana purusha dharmasyasya parantapa aprapya mam nivartante mrityu samsara vartmani. So the people who attain the Lord are people who are non-envious of Krishna. The people who attain the Lord are people who are joyfully performing bhakti in devotional service, right? But those people who are not faithful in this devotional service cannot attain me, Krishna says. O conqueror of enemies, therefore they return to the path of birth and death in this material world. So we think this material world is a very nice place. That's why we want to go and we want to tour every nook and corner of this world. We want to go sightseeing and traveling and cruising and flying. And it's a big opulence, right? People who live in very wealthy communities, they have big wealthy homes, big homes. People are very wealthy. You'll notice that they're never in the home because they have so much wealth. They're always traveling. They get the most beautiful home, but even better than that most beautiful home is to be out visiting this island, that place. But Krishna is saying that is a big, actually that is not the goal. That is a big misfortune, that we have to keep coming back to this world of birth and death, right? We may go to the nicest island, like a friend of mine, he went there. And he went to this picture-perfect island, got this picture-perfect cottage. He was the only one on this island. And right outside his cottage, he saw this sign which says, "Be aware, crocodiles on the island." And he said the whole time there, he had booked this nice cottage on the island. The whole time, he had to stay inside the cottage. He couldn't go out because he was afraid of the crocodile. Crocodiles swim in the ocean also. Alligators don't, but crocodiles do. He couldn't swim in the ocean because a crocodile could be in the ocean. And he asked the cabin managers there, is it really the case? He says, yeah, we never actually saw a crocodile, but just 2 days before you came, first time ever we saw a crocodile on the island. And that's why we put that sign there. So the reality is, we're just being realists, we're not pessimists, that wherever you go in the material world, you go to, point number 1, the best part, there's birth and death there. There's fear there. Wherever you go in the material world, there's the problems of this world don't leave you. And that's why the devotees does not, aspire for the material world, but wants to attain the spiritual world. So be faithful in devotional service. But those who are not faithful, they don't attain the Lord. So faith is very important. Faith is from where devotional life begins. So now text 4 to 10, Krishna's relationship with the material world. So Krishna in this section, in many ways describes how he is related to this world. Because this is a big discussion in all the world's religious traditions, that on one hand, God is in this world, he's fully present. But if he's fully present, then is he lost in this world? Does he have the same flaws as this world does? No, he must also be transcendent. So how can he also be transcendent? So therefore, Sutre Manigana Eva, right? In this chapter, we'll see Krishna talks about his relationship with this world as a thread that ties all the pearls together, yet is unseen, just like you see here. all these pearls. So our philosophy, and he explains how he is one with the world, and yet he's different from the world. That is our position. Achintya bheda bheda, inconceivable, simultaneous oneness and difference. So, as I mentioned, all the world's religious traditions are struggling with this question, with this problem. And they find different solutions, but every solution is a bit problematic, and we'll see for reasons why. And the Vedic solution is Achintya Bheda Bheda, that God is 100% one with this world. He's inconceivably one with this world and also different simultaneously, both. And we'll see why. So here's text 4 to 10. Krishna says, by me, in my unmanifest form, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. And yet everything that is created does not rest in me. Behold my mystic opulence. Although I am the maintainer of all living entities, and although I am everywhere, I am not a part of this cosmic manifestation. For myself is the very source of creation. So first Krishna says, I pervade the entire universe. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. And yet everything that is created does not rest in me. He says that everything is in me, yet he's saying everything does not rest in me. I am the maintainer of all the living entities. I am everywhere. But I'm not a part of this cosmic manifestation. So these contradictions are present there. Text 6, understand that as a mighty wind blowing everywhere rests always in the sky, all created beings rest in me. O son of Kunti, at the end of the millennium, all material manifestations enter into my nature. And at the beginning of another millennium, by my potency, I create them again. The whole cosmic order is under me. Under my will, it is automatically manifested again and again. And under my will, it is annihilated at the end. O Dhananjay, all this work cannot bind me. I am ever detached from all these material activities, seated as though neutral. This material nature, which is one of my energies, is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, producing all moving and non-moving beings. Under its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. So, what is the quandary here? The challenge here is that Krishna is the source of everything. And if he's the source of everything, then everything that comes from him is him. Yet Krishna is more than just this material creation, right? He has to be something more. But if Krishna is not this world, if we say he's more than this world, then what is this world? It's also Krishna, right? So this is a struggle that all the world's religions struggle with. And if he is this world, then this world has so many faults. That means Krishna has these faults. This is the other big problem, that if he is this world, then how can he not be this world? And secondly, if he is this world, then this world has so many faults, then how can he be said to be perfect? And other religious traditions, like Christianity, for example, have tried to solve this problem by this idea of creation ex nihilo. This is the problem that says that this is the philosophy that says that God, because this world has evil and suffering in it, this world cannot be God, and that's why God creates this world out of nothing. So God is still the creator, but he creates this world out of nothing. So this way you can't say that a part of God is flawed or has suffering or evil in it. Because God created this world out of nothing, not out of himself, but out of nothing. So that's a good solution, but I never found that very persuasive, because it's still God who's creating it, right? So he creates it out of nothing, fine. But it's God who's creating this world. And therefore, it's still his flawed creation. Secondly, even that nothing is part of God. How can there be anything outside of God? If that nothing is producing something, then that means God is producing that something. One of the most basic axioms of philosophy and science is that from nothing you don't get something, right? You must get something from something. So creation ex nihilo is a way of saying that God created out of nothing, but that nothing then is also God. So no resolution is there. And that's why Vedic philosophy says, in fact, the Lord is inconceivable. And this relationship between the world and God is an inconceivable relationship of oneness and difference. And to explain this relationship and explain these verses, we have many metaphors, and Prabhupada gives various metaphors in the purport. So what is the relationship between God, the souls, and the world? The relationship is like the object and its reflection. This is one of the most basic, fundamental Upanishadic metaphors, where God is like the tree, Krishna is like the tree, and this world is like the reflection. This is a very apt analogy. Why? Because the reflection is separate from the world. Yet, the very existence of the reflection depends upon the tree. So like, the beauty of the reflection is, as an analogy, is that the reflection itself means a reflection of the object. There cannot be an existence. You can't just simply have a reflection in a body of water or on a mirror. Have you ever seen that? That there's no object, there's just a reflection? No, then that would be a painting. A reflection means inherent connection with the object. So the relationship between the object and the reflection is one of oneness and difference. It's one with the tree because it's a reflection of the tree, yet it's different. What other qualities can we identify in a reflection that and in the objects and the reflection that can be related with Krishna and the world? What other qualities are there? Think about the metaphor of the reflection. In relationship to the tree, what is the reflection?
It has the same qualities.
It has the same form. You're right. It has the same form.
Everything is upside down.
Everything's
opposite.
upside. Yes. Everything's upside down. Next person.
Sometimes the reflection is distorted.
Very nice. Sometimes the reflection is distorted. So this point of qualities was nice. And it has the same qualities, but those qualities, most of them in distorted form. Yes. Okay. Other things?
Also, the position is almost the same.
The position is exactly the same. Yes. But it's upside down.
The reflection is unreal.
The reflection is unreal. You bring up a very good point here, philosophical point. If the reflection is unreal, then how are we seeing the reflection?
I mean, what exists, it is not living. I mean, I can say that, it's not living. It's just
not
the
living.
shadow. Yeah.
Okay. So it's unreal in the sense that it's less real than the tree, right? Because it's real because it's an object of perception. But it's unreal. You're absolutely right. It's unreal in the sense that if you come at a different time of the day, the reflection won't be there. It's temporary. Although the tree is permanent and the tree is fully real, and although the reflection is also real, but it's less real because it's temporary. It's a temporary real of something that is permanent. Very nice. What else?
Also, the reflection is not tangible.
In what way?
I mean, you cannot touch it or you cannot feel it.
So it has some of the qualities, but it doesn't have other qualities. So you can see it. Its quality of form is there, but its quality of smell is not there. Like a tree has a particular smell. The reflection doesn't have the smell. The quality of touch is not there. Yes, very nice. What else? There's one more.
Prabhuji,
Yes.
what I feel is that the reflection is much darker than the original
Yes.
man's reflection, because it's an object towards the sun. If suppose the reflection would be a little darker than normal.
Yes, you're absolutely right. The reflection actually, like a shadow, particularly, is by definition dark. That's why you see the shadow. So very nice. In that way, this material world is a reflection of Krishna, but it's a dark place compared to the spiritual world, right? This material world is a very dark place. Yes, thank you. Right.
Prabhuji, is not permanent?
It's not permanent. It is temporary. The nature of the reflection of it is temporary. Very nice.
Also the size is deceiving.
The size is deceiving. Okay, it's smaller. Yeah.
I think the other way of saying unreal is also, Gopalji, is it's an illusion. It's a mirage that you see in the desert. You keep running towards it, but the more and more you think that you're getting closer towards it, keeps running away. It's a mirage.
Very nice. Very beautiful. A reflection seems to be real. And a mirage, particularly, like you're saying, you can say the presence of water in the desert feels that it's real, but it's actually an illusion. So illusion can have various meanings. Illusion can mean, pure unreality. Okay, illusion means it doesn't exist. But we use the term illusion in the sense of mistaking one thing for another. So a mirage is an illusion because we mistake desert to be water, right? So mistaking one thing for another. Similarly, the illusion that we are the body. The illusion of ourself is that we think that we are the body, but we're actually the soul. So we exist, but the illusion is our false identity is illusory because we are misidentifying one thing to be the other. So in the reflection, one can be easily illusioned to think that the reflection is the tree when actually it's not the tree, but it's simply a reflection. It's very elusive. Yes, very nice.
It cannot satisfy the purpose, Prabhuji.
I cannot satisfy the purpose. In what way?
The real tree can have the fruits. Here it doesn't. It just, as you said, it's an illusion. It cannot satisfy. Or cannot.
Right.
It doesn't. It's just a kind of reflection. It doesn't do the purpose.
It doesn't satisfy the soul. Very nice point. And I think that point also Anand was making, that it's you keep chasing after it, but it actually doesn't give you the real thing. So the mangoes, very nice example, Prabhu, that you're giving. The mangoes in the reflection tree, you keep chasing them, but they have no taste. The taste is only in the real tree, in the mangoes in the real tree. Very nice.
Also, Prabhu, another thing is the reflection is upside down in the real tree.
Yes, the reflection is upside down, right? It's the trunk is up and the branches are down. So everything's perverted. And this is actually one of the qualities in relation of the material world in relation to the spiritual world. That whatever in the spiritual world is the highest becomes the lowest in the material world. And whatever is lowest is actually highest in the spiritual world. Just like in this world, the illicit affairs or the loving affairs between men and women are most abominable, right? But in the spiritual world, that same relationship, the paramour relationship between the love of Krishna and the gopis, is the most exalted. And how is that possible? Because it's a reflection, opposite, right? That becomes the highest form of love, of selfless, spontaneous love for Krishna. Going to Krishna in spite of so many restrictions, still going to him out of their spontaneous love. And one last thing that is not so obvious, another quality of the relationship between this, the reflection and the tree, is that the reflection is always dependent on the tree. It's fundamentally dependent on the tree, but the tree is not dependent on the reflection. Very key point. So that Relationship of dependence is one way. The reflection depends on the tree, but not the other way around. And this is therefore all the ways in which the material world relates with Krishna. The material world is a perverted reflection. Everything in this world, all the relationships that are there in the spiritual world exist in the material world, but they're all twisted. Everyone is out looking for themselves. Everyone is trying to, stab another person in the back. Not everyone, but this is very commonly the case in the material context. There's no pure love, very little pure love, very little love in this world. And so therefore, no pure love. There's, relationships, but then they're temporary. We have to leave them. We have to die one day, right? There's birth, disease, old age, and death. So, and depending upon the gunas that we are in, and the degree of conditioning, that reflection is more or less visible. So in murky water, right, if the tree is being reflected on brown murky water, the reflection will be less beautiful, less visible. But if that reflection is on clear, beautiful water, then it's very clear. In the same way, if we're in the mode of goodness and maybe a little passion, but primarily in the mode of goodness, then that's like the calm water of the lake, in which the reflection is coming nicely, things are peaceful. But if we're in the modes of passion and ignorance, then there's always these ripples, and there's always the disturbance of this material world. Similarly, in dependence, that Krishna, this world and the living entities are dependent upon Krishna intrinsically. They have no existence, no meaning without him, but Krishna is not dependent on them. And this is why Krishna says, all beings are in me, but I am not in them. So although he is in them, as Paramatma, he goes in them. But he's describing in this verse, how do we then understand this? This verse is very difficult for me. But what he's describing is a relationship of dependence. They need support from me. They're within me. I'm carrying them, but I am not carried by them. That's what that means. Right. This world has some qualities, right? It has some happiness, some joy in it. But that those qualities are just a sliver, like 1% of all the qualities that exist in the spiritual world. The wonderful example that we were giving, that the mango tree is there, the form is there, but so many other aspects are missing. The smell of the mango, the taste of the mango, all of those things. In the same way, we have 5 senses in this world and we're so proud of them. But in the spiritual world, we have hundreds of senses, types of capacities that we're not even aware of in this material world. Just like if someone is blind and they go to London, they will experience the same London. Someone who has sight will also go and experience the same London. But one of them will only hear the sounds and touch the things, have experience of the form. But the other will have those experiences plus the experience of sight. More senses are available. More types of experiences are there. In the same way, we don't know in the spiritual world, there's so much more bountiful experience because we're not blinded, we're not deaf, we're not dumb. We have all of the senses available to us. All the capacities are there. Now, a blind person doesn't even know what it means or feel like to see. Actually, if blind people don't see black, it's not that a blind person, their eyes are shut and they're always seeing black. No, blind people don't see. It's not that they see black all the time or white all the time, or no, they just don't see. And so they don't have the capacity to see. Those who are blind from birth. In the same way, we don't even know what it may be like, because the material body and this conditioning covers certain capacities. Dogs never see color, I think, right? So they didn't even know what color is like. But we see so much color in so beautiful, right, colorful world. What if there's 20 other things that we don't see, just like the dogs don't see color, we don't see those things, but those exist in the spiritual world. So that's the perverted reflection part. It's very limited and it's very temporary, like the reflection. So this is a very powerful analogy very good if you're giving a class, if you're speaking to like college students in your preaching work, to describe how Krishna is one, but how this entire world is his energy. Just like the tree is one, but it can have so many reflections, and how all these reflections emanate from that one tree. So here are some other metaphors that are used. The first one we covered, object and reflection. The second one is ocean and a drop of water from the ocean. So this is describing again the relationship between the Lord and the living beings. The first one was more focused on the world, and this one is focused on the Atmas or the Jivas. That just like you have the body of water, the ocean, and each drop in that ocean has the same qualities as the ocean, the same chemical combination, the same ratio of salt and minerals with water as the rest of the ocean does. In the same way, we are samples of God. We have the same qualities in nature of God. We are also pleasure-seeking beings. We are also, spiritual beings, but we are like the drop. The quantity is different. This is another very powerful way to explain oneness and difference. To say that the drop and the ocean are one is correct because they're one in quality. They have the same quality, the same water. But to say that the drop and the ocean are one is incorrect, because if the drop was the same as the ocean, then that means the entire ocean could fit in your cup. And the fact is that it doesn't. If the drop was the same as the ocean, then right now we would be drowning, because we all have a drop of water somewhere in the house, right? We would all be just like in the ocean. We would be drowning. So to say that the drop and the ocean are one is insanity. In the same way, to say that Krishna and the little jiva are one, God and the jiva who gets a toothache and who gets, a cold, and who gets a sore throat, and who gets, cheated, and who gets, forgetful, is the same as God, is complete insanity. There's just no comparison. Right? Krishna is so amazing, right? He's so wonderful that we were just thinking, just when the solar eclipse happened, we were thinking that this one sun, we were sitting outside and the sun was burning our skin. This is before the solar eclipse. And we were thinking that this one sun is millions of miles away, right? It's millions of miles away, and it's burning our skin right now. And the same sun is warming up not just Earth, but tens of thousands, even millions of other planets, right? That, according to scientific idea, there's one sun for every solar system, right? That's our star, right? And all these planets are there, and they're all getting warmed by this one sun. I mean, imagine how strong the heat of that fire is. That fire there, a million miles away, someone might know the exact distance of the sun from the earth, is warming up our skin here. And if you light a fire, and even if you stand 20 meters away from it, you won't even know the existence of that fire, right? You stand 10 feet away and it won't cook anything. Just like there's a big joke about this in Akbar and Birbal stories, or I think it's Akbar Birbal story. Yeah, Akbar Birbal story, that one time Akbar had a competition that whoever can stand in the cold river, he was testing the yogis, because he was a Muslim ruler, but very friendly to Hindus. So he said, if you have the yogic power to stand in this freezing cold water all night long and still be alive the next day, then I'll give you a big part of my treasury, right? Something like that, he had said. So all these different yogis came, and some could stand in the river for an hour, and after that they were freezing, their toes were blue, and they came out. Some of them got pneumonia, and they were in the hospital. And so all these yogis did, but one yogi came and stood there, and he was a true yogi, right? He had yogic powers, and he stood there all night long. And the next day, he was still standing there. Akbar came, and he's like, He asked his guards, is this man standing here all night? He said, yes, he is. He was shocked. But then he thought no one can do this. And it was like in, Rishikesh or something, freezing ice cold water. And so he was then thinking, how can I give my treasury? And then when he was there, he looked from far away. There was a light that was burning there. And it was like 20 meters away, a lamp, before it wasn't electricity, there was like fire in that lamp. So he said, oh, no. See, actually the way the yogi did this is because he actually had a fire burning 20 meters away. And that was not part of the deal. When I had said all night long, it didn't mean that you have a fire burning nearby. And so this yogi will not get anything. I won't give him the treasury because he cheated. Actually, he was cheating him, but he said, he was doing this as an excuse. So Birbal, who was his Hindu minister, he said, no problem. I'll teach him. I'll get him to understand. And this was Birbal's standard way, that when he had to respond, he never responded immediately. He waited for the right time, and then he responded very effectively. A good teaching in politics and just diplomacy in general, and communication in general, that he never reacted to the situation. He always responded. So the next time, some weeks later, the king was out, on an expedition, and they're camping in the forest. So Akbar asked Birbal, you cook something for me. And in the forest, what do you eat? You eat just a khichdi, one pot. So Birbal says, no problem, king, I will cook it for you. So he puts the rice and the dal in the pot and puts water in it. And then he takes the pot and he asks the servants to light a fire. They light the fire. And then he says, light it under a small fire under a tree. So they do that. And then he says, hang the pot on that high branch on the tree. And so they do that. And the pot is hanging, about 10 feet above the fire. And the fire is there and the pot is hanging there. And, it's cooking. So then Akbar, he asks, so is my lunch ready? And Birbal says, just getting ready, sir. Just getting ready, sir. It's still cooking. It's not cooked. So then he says, okay. Then he comes back after half an hour. And the king says, where's my lunch? Is it not ready? He says, sir, it's still cooking. This is a forest. You're not in the kingdom. Be patient. He says, okay. So he waits another 15 minutes. He comes back. Where's my food? He says, sir, you come for yourself and you see it's still cooking, because I'll see what cooking you're doing. And he comes in and he sees that the fire is there, the pot is up there. And he says, you're the most intelligent minister of the land. Have you lost your intelligence? You've gone mad that you're trying to cook this rice with the fire so far away. Why did you bring it close to the fire? And then what does Birbal say? Birbal says, no, this fire, it's heating the pot. Can you not see? It's right below the pot. It's 20 feet away. It's heating the pot. And Akbar says, Birbal, you are completely mad. I think after being a minister for a long time, now you've become mad. And Birbal says, you see, this is the injustice you did with that yogi. This fire was burning 20 meters away from where he was in the freezing cold river. And you're saying that it's heating him. And in the same way, then why your food is not being cooked by this fire? So we may burn a big fire, but it won't heat something far away. But Krishna's power, just one of his sons, and this sun, remember, is one of the millions and billions of stars in the galaxy. This one sun is heating us up 1,000,000 miles away. And the person who's created this, we say, I am also the same as that. We can't light a fire that's hot enough to cook khichdi 20 meters away. It's ludicrous. So we are like that drop, and Krishna's like that unlimited ocean. And when you actually go to the ocean, you recognize, we forget just how unlimited it is. How, in every direction, it's so amazing. The third analogy is the flower and its fragrance. The flower is one with the fragrance, yet is different than the fragrance. In the same way, this material world is emanating from Krishna, like the flower. It's one with the flower, yet it's different. And the last one, the metaphor that I've already explained in some ways, is the sun and the sunshine. The sun is so far away. If we even got 1,000 miles closer, we'd burn up immediately. But 1,000,000 miles away, it's still heating us through the sunshine. So the sunshine is one with the sun, yet it's different than the sun. What's the difference? The sunshine is one in quality. It has the same nature to heat like the sun, but it's different than the quantity. If we say that a ray of sunlight is the same as the sun, then that is our foolishness. Okay, so this is oneness and difference, Bheda Bheda, which is also described as immanence and transcendence. Oneness is immanence. The God is immanent in the world. He's present in the world, yet he's also beyond this world. He's transcendent to this world. And the Bhagavatam describes how all the living entities, therefore Krishna, everything belongs to Krishna. Krishna can do no wrong because all living entities are his reflections. People say, why did Krishna dance with so many gopis, with so many wives of other people? And Prabhupada's response was, no, all living entities, including all women, belong to Krishna. It is you who are dancing with Krishna's reflection. And this is how it's described in the Bhagavatam. Thus, with broadful, playful smiles and affectionate glances, the Lord of Rama delighted in loving the fair maidens of Raja, just as a small child plays with his own reflection. So the fair maidens of Raja are the gopis of Raja. They are like the reflection of Krishna. And just like a child plays with his reflection, Krishna is dancing with the gopis. So Krishna then describes, well, what is the nature of his physical form? Avajananti mamudha manusham tanumashratam param bhavam ajananto mama bhuta maheshwara. Fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature as the supreme Lord of all that be. So Krishna, when he appears in this world, because he's also transcendent, he's not lost in this world. He is a person. He has a form. But when he comes in this world, we should never think that God has become human. He has a human-like form, but he is a spiritual, transcendental person. So up here, I've written all the different ways in which people understand God. One is atheism. God does not exist. One is pantheism, which says that God is lost in the world. Another is impersonalism, that God everything is one, and God is one with everything. Pantheism says God, the world is God, God is the world. Impersonalism says everything is one, God is simply energy. Polytheism says that there's many gods. And monotheism says that there's one God. So Bhagavad Gita is a monotheistic tradition. It's not a pantheistic tradition. It's not an impersonalist tradition. It's not a polytheist tradition. The Bhagavad Gita doesn't believe that the world is God. No, the world is the energy of God, but not fully God. Bhagavad Gita doesn't believe that God is ultimately impersonal. Bhagavad Gita doesn't believe that there's many gods. In this very chapter, Krishna says that those who worship the demigods are doing so in the wrong way, are worshipping him in the wrong way. Bhagavad Gita is speaking of a monotheism. And there's actually another one that I didn't list here. It's called panentheism, that God is a world plus more. It's not even that. No, God is a person. And therefore we say monotheism. Now, our form of monotheism, actually, we're getting a bit technical here. It's just the nature of this discussion. It's called polymorphic monotheism, meaning one God, but that one God can come in many different forms. Polymorphic, meaning many forms. So one God who can come in many forms. But it's a monotheism. Many people, they say that monotheism begins with the Abrahamic traditions. Before that, there's no monotheism. Monotheism begins with Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. But when we read the Gita, we see that Krishna is very clearly monotheist. But he also it gives us a way to understand his relationship with the world. Okay, and now we get into, well, how do we know this most wonderful person? How do we know the transcendental nature of this person? Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantasya dhridavrata namasyantasya mam bhaktya nityayukta upasate. Always chanting my glories, endeavoring with great determination, bowing down before me, these great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. So, right? To realize Krishna involves a lot of determination. People say, this Krishna consciousness is too much. And they're right, it is too much. But if we want to get the ultimate goal of life, we have to do the too much. We have to make it the only much. Right? That has to be our only goal in life. Then we will actually become very successful. Of course, that goal involves leading a wholesome life. It involves making everyone around us Krishna conscious. We don't have to take any extreme steps, but still it won't be easy, right? We always have to remember that Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said that one who is on this path of spiritual life, on this devotional path, their path will be laden with thorns. So all the great souls have never said that if we go to God, our path will be laden with roses and gems. That's when we reach the spiritual world. When we reach the goal, then it'll be there. But we see that those who are spiritually advanced or who are advancing, they are working so hard for Krishna. They're sacrificing so much for Krishna. They're taking so much austerity and suffering for Krishna, to the point of even breaking their bodies, ruining their health, right? But though materially that may be seen like that, but spiritually they're gaining their spiritual body, right? Their transcendental body. Like Prabhupada, for example, he came and he took so much pains to spread this Krishna conscious movement. And if he had stayed in Radha Damodar in Vrindavan, he could have easily, he was a man in very good health. Right? Prabhupada's health was always very good. He could have easily lived past 100 years. But Prabhupada decided to fulfill the instruction of his spiritual master, and he traveled around the world 13 times. At the age of 70, for a 70-year-old man, he was in one place 2-3 days, and then he would move to the next place, go to the next place. He was sleeping 2 hours. Sometimes when he was working so hard, the devotees, like working in the sense, not working, but he was kind of exerting himself so much that the devotees could see Prabhupada's body, trembling because of fatigue, it was not easy. Although he was fully transcendental, but still it was not easy. Even a transcendental person will still existing in the body, and Prabhupada said this actually, that his preaching work was taking a great toll on his health, but endeavoring with great determination. Prabhupada also said that we have to take care of our body and health comes first. But we have to also know that we have limited time to reach Krishna. Like Aindrada Prabhu has said in one place, in one class, he says that Krishna consciousness is a gradual process. And then he says we can make it as gradual as we like. So we have limited time. The finish point is there. We have 50 years to reach that finish point, if we're lucky. But anything can happen at any moment. So in the meantime, we also have to be very determined. We have to endeavor with great determination. and worship Krishna. So I'm going to skip this. I'm going to let you read this. This is in this chapter. Again, Krishna is describing how can we remember him? How can we always see him in this universe? So that part of immanence, right? Krishna is transcendent, yet he's present in this world. He's saying, I am the ritual, I'm the sacrifice. I am the father of this universe, the mother and the support and the grandsire. I am the object of knowledge. I give heat. Therefore, he is the sun, right? Krishna Surya Sama. I am the master, the witness, the abode. So beautiful. Krishna is saying, I am all these things. And I am the most dear friend. This is text 18. The refuge and the most dear friend. Krishna is the refuge of all of us. Krishna is our most dear friend. So when everything fails and we're really disgusted with this world, and when nothing is working, when we are exasperated, then the only place for refuge is Krishna. We must take refuge in Krishna. We must call out to our dear friend, and then Krishna will solve our problem. And this is actually the mood of chanting. When we're chanting, we should chant in that mood. That I am now with my refuge. Krishna will help me. So I don't have to think of anything else. If I chant nicely, then Krishna will show the solution after I'm done chanting. Sometimes we're trying to find the solution while we chant. But we should chant, we should take refuge of Krishna. We should, connect with our most dear friend. And then everything else in our day will go well. Krishna will give us the perfect intelligence how to do everything nicely, everything perfectly. And Krishna will guide us to go to the right place, do the right thing, if we take refuge in Krishna. Because Krishna is the master of everyone. Krishna will pull the ropes in such a way that he will make us, he will take care of us. Text 22, chapter 9. Ananya shintayanto mam ye jana paryupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. But those who always worship me with exclusive devotion, meditating on my transcendental form, to them I carry what they lack, and I preserve what they have. Very famous verse of the Gita. So just the point that we were saying, Krishna is the refuge and the friend of all living beings. Krishna is saying, especially to those who take refuge in me. Krishna is kind to every living being. This is why he's giving the ant its food and the elephant its ton of food, right? Krishna is kind to all living beings, even those who don't worship him get fortune in this world. But he's especially kind to the devotee who worships him with exclusive devotion, not, what's the word? Casual devotion. Okay, let me just, do something. No, exclusive devotion. Krishna says, I carry what they lack. Whatever they lack, I give them, and I preserve what they have. Ye panya devata bhaktya yajante shraddhayanvita tepi mameva kaunteya yajantya vidhipurvakam. Those who are devotees of other gods. So what of those who don't have exclusive devotion? They are those who worship other gods and who worship them with faith, actually worship only me, O son of Kunti, but they do so in the wrong way. So Krishna is saying those who worship other gods, because these other gods, as we see in chapter 11, are the limbs of Krishna. They're only worshiping Krishna, but they're doing so in the wrong way. Why in the wrong way? Because that's like watering the leaves of the tree and not the root of the tree. All of them are part and parcel of Krishna, like the leaves on a tree. They're all part of him, but they're part of him. They're not Krishna. And if we want to worship Krishna, then we worship Krishna. This is also why people say, well, if all of these people, are parts of Krishna, and some of these like Ganesha, for example, removes obstacles from the path of even bhakti, of devotion. So why don't we have a murti or a picture of Ganesha on our altars? You know, why don't ISKCON devotees keep pictures of Ganesh, Shiva, Devi? These are all great devotees of the Lord. They all help in our bhakti. Why don't we keep them on our altar? Because of this. Those who worship me with exclusive devotion. We will offer our respect to Ganesha. We will pray that he removes obstacles from the path of our devotion, that he brings auspiciousness. But our worship, our exclusive worship, our focus is on Krishna. And due to that desire to exclusively worship him, devotees avoid having other gods and goddesses on their altars. Those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship the ancestors go to the ancestors. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. And those who worship me will live with me. So nice. So then Krishna now describes in this final section, which I'll cover just in a few minutes because we're out of time. He talks about glories of worshiping Krishna directly. So nice. Worship. How do you worship Krishna? One of the most famous verses of the Gita, Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhaktyupahritam ashnami prayatatmana. If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, a fruit or water, I will accept it. So this is the beauty of Krishna. That just if we offer him with love and devotion, because he's accepting the love, not the offering exactly. He's accepting the love, then Krishna accepts it. Now Prabhupada explains in the purport, he says that this does not mean that a rich man, a millionaire, should come and offer a leaf to Krishna. But Krishna is saying that even if you don't have anything, you can offer him a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water, and I will accept it. Because I accept the intention. I accept the love, the offering of the devotee. I don't exactly accept the actual object. That is the manifestation or the expression of the love. But that's not the love itself. Right? And that's why Prabhupada says in another place, he says that Krishna sees not what we give. Krishna sees what do we keep for ourselves. So if someone only has 2 rupees and he gives Krishna 1 rupee, he is, in Krishna's eyes, a very big donor. He gave 50% of his wealth to Krishna. But if someone is a millionaire and he gives $50,000, he may not be as great of a devotee as the person who gives 1 rupee, because the other person is keeping 90% of it for himself. The first person gave 50%. Is keeping only 50% for himself. Of course, that's what he needs to sustain himself. So basically, he's giving everything to Krishna. Right? Yat karoshi yadashnashi yajjuhosi yadasi yat tapasyasi konteya tat kurushva madarpanam. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away, whatever austerities you perform, do that, O son of Kunti, as an offering to me. 1 minute. In this way, you will be freed from bondage to work and its auspicious and inauspicious results. With your mind fixed on me, in this principle of renunciation, you will be liberated and come to me. So this previous verse, it's said to be on the platform of pure bhakti. This one is sort of karma yoga, karma mishra bhakti. In this one, everything that you have, you're offering to Krishna. You're offering to Krishna offerings of love. You're offering your food to Krishna. You're offering a tulsi leaf to Krishna. So that's describing pure bhakti. This one is saying whatever you're doing, you offer it to Krishna. So that's the difference between pure bhakti and Mishra bhakti. Because in this one, we are deciding what we want to do. I decide what I want to do, and I'll give the offering, the result, to Krishna, which is still very glorious. But the first one is even better. So successively, Krishna describes two different types. I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I am equal to all. But whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend, is in me, and I am also a friend to him. So Krishna says, I'm equal to everyone, but if you're my devotee, I'm especially close to you and you are close to me. If one commits the most abominable action, even if one commits the most abominable action, if he is engaged in devotional service, he is to be considered saintly because he is properly situated in his determination. He quickly becomes righteous and attains lasting peace, O son of Kunti, declared boldly that my devotee never perishes. So in these three verses, we could actually do an entire new session. We could do an entire class just on these three verses. These are, I mean, that's a chapter 9. It's the most special chapter of the Gita in some ways, and very hard to cover it in 1 week. And we're pretty much out of time, actually. But I just want to say a few words here that these verses are in succession. And Krishna is describing the exalted position of a devotee. He first says that a devotee is someone that although he's equal to everyone, in fact, it would be a great fault on Krishna's part if he didn't show special favor to his devotee. Because if he's equal to everyone, then if someone comes and offers themselves to Krishna, then Krishna has to equally respond, right? Has to respond accordingly. So his being partial to a devotee, his being especially favorable towards a devotee, is not a sign of his partiality. It's a sign of his equality. If someone gives their life to us and we don't respond, then that's our fault. That's a weakness on our part. If someone doesn't give their life to us, then that's, well, they're like anyone else, right? And they don't expect anything more from us. So Krishna is saying both things, and both things are correct. He's equal to everyone, yet he's especially favorable to his devotee. Now, in this 31st verse, Krishna says that, Arjuna, you declare that my devotee will never perish. Because Krishna always protects the word of his devotee. He tells Arjuna, you say that my devotee never perishes. It'll be your word, and then I'll always protect my devotee. Meaning that, how deep this word, I mean, this is so heavy, that Krishna is making a promise like none other. If we are Krishna's devotee, we will not perish. We cannot perish. If we are perishing, the only reason is because we're not fully surrendered to Krishna. We have to surrender more to him. We have to take more of his refuge. A devotee cannot perish. The devotee will always be victorious. This is the end, also, verse of the Gita. And victory means spiritual victory, not material victory. Devotee will always go back to Krishna. Devotee will always be protected by Krishna. At the end, Krishna says, Sanjay says, wherever there's Arjuna and Krishna, there must be victory, fortune, everlasting joy, everything. And Krishna is saying that the devotee never perishes, even so much so that even in his spiritual life, if a devotee makes a mistake, if he's a devotee, but he does a bad action, he does something wrong, and he does so, he makes a mistake. Even he does it conscientiously, but he makes a mistake, and he never does it again, and he repents that mistake, and he continues on with his devotional life. after rectifying it, repenting for it, that's part of being a devotee, then Krishna says that he's still to be considered saintly. Even if a devotee does something wrong, something bad, they're still to be considered saintly, because they will be very quickly purified. He quickly becomes righteous and attains a lasting peace. Because the process is so strong, they will become purified. Okay, so I will end here. It's at 8:35. I have a hard stop in 5 minutes. So if there's any comments or questions, we can take that now. Madhura Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you for such a wonderful class. True, as you started in the very beginning, you said that if you want to know something confidential about somebody, you have to know the person intimately. And that relates to this chapter, that this is the most confidential knowledge. And somebody who's standing outside will not know the confidential knowledge. And if somebody who does not believe in Krishna, or who is not worshipping Krishna or doing any devotional service, and if he still reads the Bhagavad Gita, he will still know the knowledge. So how do you reconcile that he will not know?
Yes, very good comment. Thank you, question. Because actually he will not know. The knowledge is more and more realized through the process of devotional service. Right? Through the process of bhakti, actually that knowledge is revealed more and more. Just like when we, I'm sure, Prabhu, you've read the Gita before. So we've read the Gita so many times, but every time we read it, we find something new, something deeper. Right? We actually, and it's not that there's some new word that we missed, but within our heart, we find something new, like, oh, this is what Krishna is saying. This is what it means. This is actually what it means. This is how deep his words are. So just because we read it and we know it doesn't mean that we know it. Real knowledge is not jnana, but it's vijnana, right? It's experienced knowledge. Real knowledge is the experience, the true experience. And this is why Lord Chaitanya is also saying that chanting of the holy name is vidya vadhu jivanam. It gives birth to real knowledge, because and chanting is no knowledge. It's just repeating the same words over and over again. But because through that chanting, we experience Krishna, and that experience of Krishna is knowing. A person who experiences something knows that thing most closely. So when we have a relationship with Krishna, we actually realize this knowledge much more deeply. Prabhu, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Yes, thank you very much. Sham Kishori, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I just wanted to add everything. So, very nice. You said the relationship between the like the Lord and the living entity. So you gave some metaphors like the object and its reflection. So like how the tree its reflection is in the water. Okay, and then ocean and a drop of water from the ocean. So you said really nicely that if the drop of water was the ocean was equal to the ocean, then we like somewhere in the world, in this house, we have a drop of ocean. So then we would be flooded. So that's why it's not equal to the ocean. And then the flower and its fragrance, and then the sun and the sunshine. So and then the oneness and the difference.
Yes.
Bheda bhed, and the immense and transcendence. So and very nice one point was that if we take shelter of Krishna will refuse, will take care of us. So surrendering to Krishna is the greatest achievement. And then you also said like the four points, like the knowledge, inconceivable relationships, non-worship, and glories of bhakti. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Wow, you're a transcendental genius. So nice. Thank you so much. So wonderfully summarized. And actually, this chapter had many disparate points, and you brought them sort of together, many different sections. Some very philosophical, some very devotional. Very well done. Okay. Any final question, comment? I can be here 1 or 2 more minutes. Okay, Lakshmi Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
I'm still kind of a little lost. In the metaphors, the ocean and the drop of the water, you know, like the Mayavadis, the impersonal Brahman, they usually say, like, you know, you go in, you know, like, so can you give more details about that? Because I'm like a little bit confused.
Very nice. So yes, and you may say, well, this drop of the water in the ocean is also a favorite metaphor of the Mayavadis, because the Mayavadis say that just like Mayavadis are impersonalists, they say just like the drop merges into the ocean, in the same way we merge into the absolute truth, we become one, right? But Madhvacharya refuted that argument very nicely. He had his disciple, or this was a challenge, and so his assistant, he was challenging another pandit on the other side. They're sitting, you know, across each other, and he had his assistant. He said, "Bring me 2 glasses of water." The opponent is saying that when you put, you know, some water and you mix it with the other, it all becomes one. So he said, "Bring 2 glasses of water." So he brings 2 glasses of water, and then Madhvacharya, both of them are filled with water. And Madhvacharya takes the water from one glass and he pours it into the other. And the water overflows and it spills everywhere, and, you know, wets the dhoti of his opponent, and water's everywhere. And then Madhvacharya says, so did it become one? If you mix 2 things together, did it become one? He said, no, it didn't become one. Because if it became one, then it would have been only 1 glass. But it's overflowed. So the oneness is a oneness in quality, but a difference in quantity. That's what that metaphor is showing. A oneness in quality, a difference in quantity.
I think. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, that was such a nice.
You're cutting out, Mataji. So.
Sorry.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you, but then after some time, then the voice is lost.
Oh.
We can try again.
That was such a nice example of. Can you hear?
Yes.
Yeah, so that was such a nice example of Madhvacharya of 2 glasses. I also heard in Prabhupada's lecture that in the material world, it could happen that Mayavadis, that they can think that the drop can be into, like, it can assimilate into the ocean. But he says that this is only in material nature this could happen, because again, the material nature is perverted, shadow. So I heard, like, faintly, I heard that he said something about that.
Very nice. Yes, that's this is thank you for that comment. Yes. So I need to end now. Actually, it's 8:45, and I have a so thank you, and we will start next time with chapter 10. You have the homework for chapter 9. Please continue reading and doing the homework, and we will continue our study of the Gita. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.